So welcome everyone to our first gen webinar. We have put this together to give you information about how to support first gen students and how we support first generation students at Tulane and how our staff members carry out the programs and resources and services for them. And then we also want to provide this conversation this evening and this resource for you for the family so that you also know that we're really attuned to what you might need, and we are open to hearing from you about what you would like in terms of feeling more connected to what we're doing at Tulane so that you can also support your student from afar. All of our webinars have that purpose, but we know that for families of first-gen students, they've got some particular needs and desires, and we really want to reach out and meet those needs. So I'm delighted tonight that we can have staff from our Center for Academic Equity join us and present information to you and be available to answer your questions. So I will turn things over to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Penny. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Tanya Mandishona, and I have the pleasure of serving as the director of the Center for Academic Equity, or CAE. You'll hear that a lot. We love a good acronym at Tulane. I'm joined by two of my colleagues, and we'll speak a little bit more about our specific roles in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to say congratulations to you all for getting your child to college. That is not an easy feat for any parent, and so I hope that you are just as proud of yourselves as you are of your child. This is going to be a lot of new information for both you and your child, but just know that our team here at the Center for Academic Equity and everyone at Tulane is in your corner, and we're here to support you throughout this journey and answer any questions that might come up along the way. So just a quick overview of this is a very, very brief sort of description of the work that we do. But our center is about 8 years old, and we are here to support historically underrepresented students to make sure that they're getting the Tulane experience that they desire. So that those students are first generation students, or first gen students, students of color, queer and trans students, or students that are LGBTQIA+, and any other student that might be needing just additional support or doesn't know how to navigate certain things. We're here to support them. And we do that in a variety of ways, and one of those is the programs that you see listed here. So we'll talk a lot more about our first gen events tonight, but we also have some other events, Equity Thursdays, where we tell the students, come for the food. We provide a free lunch, come for the food, but stay for the information, and we bring campus partners in just to talk to our students in a smaller, more intimate environment. And then we also support our Posse and College Track scholars as well. So.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Charles Mukaida. I'm the senior program coordinator who oversees engagement and first generation college student programming. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I'm also, or I have been in charge of a lot of our funding. Fortunately, now that we have our associate director, some of those things I can fortunately push off to her, but very slowly. I'll be sure to hand off the information nice and easily. But so we have a couple of different funding options at the Center for Academic Equity. The first, which is currently open right now, is the NTC Undergrad Bundle Scholarship, and that is a scholarship that covers the fees for the undergrad bundle, and that basically covers the books and material costs for your classes. It's a flat fee. There are some exceptions that we've come across, like there are some art classes that some of the materials are not covered under that, but for most students, the undergrad bundle will be able to cover all of your materials. And then we also have the CAE Academic Resource Grant. We are having to possibly retitle that soon to take care of some loopholes. But basically, it's $500 once per semester, once per unforeseen or emergency type situation that's academic related. And things that that can cover can be like if you're going to a conference and you need some professional attire, we can help fund that. If you're studying for the LSATs or for the MCAT, we can help cover materials to study for it, or for the application fees or test taking fees. So those are the types of things that you can apply for that grant for. Two things that we know for sure that we can't cover are tuition related expenses, and that's because of financial aid reasons, and then insurance costs just because of liability issues. But I usually tell people, like, if you think it could possibly be funded, just apply, because the worst we can say is no. And the best that we can, or the least that we can probably do, is at least cover some of it. So, and you can always reach out to us if you have any questions in regards to that. And something that some students are benefiting from right now is the summer grant fund. We're playing around with the summer grant fund right now to see what best works for everybody. And this past summer, we funded every single recipient of the award with $1,500. And there are just a couple of materials that you need to submit in order to be considered for the summer grant fund. And that's a cover letter, resume, the application itself, and I think I'm forgetting something. But those are the main things for sure. And the Summer Grant Fund helps fund summer experiences like research fellowships, internships, and study abroad. And this is another opportunity too, where we not only fund Tulane affiliated opportunities, but we also consider non-Tulane affiliated opportunities as well. There are some constraints with that, but just like the academic resource grant, we try to feel that out as things go along, just because sometimes there are some complications that could arise, but I don't believe we've come across any summer experience thus far that we haven't been able to fund if we decide to fund that recipient. So yeah, if you have any questions about these funds later, you can either ask after we're done presenting, or you can feel free to email us. We are fairly responsive via email, especially myself. So ask away. And now we're on to the actual introductions of everybody here at CAE. I'll let Tanya take it off with that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Charlie. So this is our team. We're small but mighty. We're a team of 5. And so I serve as the director. I've been the director for about 2 years, but I've been at Tulane for almost 6 years now. And so it's truly a great joy to be able to work in this office with this amazing team. Mimi Goodwin, who you see on here, she couldn't be with us tonight, and Ms. Keyshawn, our secretary, couldn't be here, but Brittany and Charlie are here, so I will let them introduce themselves in more detail. Brittany, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Yandel, and I am the Associate Director for CAE. Today is actually my very first day in this role, but I have been at Tulane for quite a long time, off and on in various positions for about 8 years now. So I'm excited to get started with this team and help our first-gen students navigate being on campus. Charlie, I'll pass it to you.
Okay. Hi, like I said before, and as it says on the screen, I'm the Senior Program Coordinator, and the major piece for this presentation is that I was luckily and excitably tasked with basically reviving our first generation college student programming. We all, myself, Tanya, and Mimi started in the office about 2 years ago now, or a little over 2 years ago for some of us. And it was a full office or center turnover, and we were tasked with kind of revitalizing and reorganizing all the programming. And because of unforeseen circumstances, the first generation college student programming had kind of fallen to the wayside. So it was a blessing and a curse that I was left with nothing. But I love a challenge, and I love being able to be creative and do what I think fits best for the students. And the way that we kind of kicked that off was with a first generation college celebration that is held on November 8th, and we had food and campus partners and resources. And we built upon that this past year by helping create visibility and awareness of the first generation college student identity. And we did that through a variety of different ways. We made a sticker sheet, we made t-shirts for first generation college student staff and students and faculty to wear, so that people can actually see what the first generation college student population looks like at Tulane, and that they're not really alone, and that there's a sea of people here, not only that identifies with them, but is here to support them. And we built upon that with creating events and programming that we'll talk about later. And yeah, so I'm originally from Hawaii. Although I wasn't a first generation college student, because of familial circumstances, I kind of had to go through college myself. I had to go through financial aid myself. I was no longer dependent, and it it was very interesting having to go through these things, not having somebody to go to. And I really had to advocate for myself. And even in this position, as I'm learning about Tulane and the collegiate process and things that the resources that students have available to them right now, I'm caught by surprise with some things that I didn't know that I wish I knew that would have made my experience that much easier. And that's what I want to supply for all the students here. And that's what kind of impassions me, because I want to leave this better than what I had for myself. So yeah, I thank Tanya for allowing me to be in this position, and I'm excited to be able to not only provide this programming for you, but to help grow and make this a better place for first generation college students. And I hand this back to Tanya. If you
Awesome.
want to.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought we wanted to share a little bit of information sort of to help conceptualize who our first gen students are on our campus, and to also let you know that you're not alone in this. There are lots of other first gen parents, and there are also a lot of first gen students. So when your student gets here, they're not going to be alone. There are lots of other people that are experiencing similar things, who are going through the same things as them, and we hope that they do find community with those students. So these are just a few highlights that we thought were really great to share. This incoming class, so the cohort that your student is coming in, is the biggest cohort of first gen students that Tulane has had most recently. It's actually double what it was from 2 years ago. So it's up to 14% of the incoming class is a first generation college student, which is up from 10% last year. So this population is growing, and as Charlie said, one of our goals and aims is to make sure that these students see each other and they find community with each other, but also know that they have a ton of people in their corner, and that they are doing great. So speaking of doing great, their retention rate, so the first year retention rate, how long the students stay at Tulane from year 1 to year 2, is actually higher than the average of the entire class. So this past year, the students that started last fall, or a couple falls ago, excuse me, their retention rate was 96.58, and the average Tulane retention rate is about 93-94%. So these students are staying here and they're thriving and they're doing really well. And so we're excited to continue to create opportunities for our first generation students to find community with each other, but also find their passions and find, remember what drew them to Tulane at the beginning. We also wanted to share that their high school GPAs are very high, 3.7 or higher for the fall 2023 group that started. And so we're incredibly proud of how smart and talented they are and all the incredible things that they do when they get here. And then 20.22% of the first generation students from 2023 were honor scholars. So again, incredibly smart and talented students, and who are just doing amazing things on our campus. So I wanted to share some of this data. I'm a data person. I love being able to see numbers. They really do help explain things. But in addition to that, I think their stories are incredible, and we'll hopefully be able to share a little bit of that as we continue this presentation. So I'll pass it over to Charlie to talk about some of the programs that he mentioned.
All right, so here's a little general overview of the major touching points that we'll address throughout this presentation. So a monthly series that we have is First Gen Fridays. That'll be up first. And then I mentioned the First Gen College celebration a little bit earlier. First Gen supporter signage, which is an exciting thing, I think, especially for incoming students. And then we actually held our first Gen graduation celebration this past semester, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So for First Gen Fridays, this is one of the first reoccurring events series that we created for first generation college students. And the first iteration, the iteration that we've had for the past year and a half, it's been a mixture of a dinner to help build community and a feeling of belonging here at Tulane, where we sometimes invited first generation college graduates like faculty and staff from Tulane to come and meet the students and talk to them about their experiences and the things that they went through as first generation college students. But we also coupled it with workshops or information sharing and resource sharing. Some examples of that, I think we had financial aid come in, we've had student success come in, just to talk about major things like filling out the FAFSA, or things that you can do to prepare for finals or to really be successful here at Tulane. This upcoming year, we're trying to experiment with First Gen Fridays, and we're going to separate the workshop aspect and the community building aspect. So First Gen Fridays is just purely going to be community building, an opportunity for the students to really get to know each other, to get to know the faculty and staff that are also First Gen. And then we're going to create a new series, which is mid-month meetups, where it's just going to purely be focused on the information and resource sharing for the students. Just so that, I think having community building time during a time where you can just focus on being relaxed and not having to absorb information is really important. And then that way, like, you can really focus on building those relationships and just sharing information between yourselves in a more relaxing and friendly and fun atmosphere. And we try to facilitate this community building by doing activities and whatnot. It's not for the entire duration, just because we know that can make things a little awkward, or some folks don't really open up during those activities and would rather just go about meeting people their own way. We try to emphasize, coming as you are, and creating a comfortable space for everybody in an equitable way. So we do try our best to meet everybody's needs in that way. And then I'll hand it over to Tanya to talk about the First Gen College celebration.
Awesome. This is probably easily one of my favorite events that we do for our first generation students. We initiated this a couple of years ago, so 2 years ago exactly, actually. We launched this event on our campus. It is a national day, so November 8th is National First Generation College Student Day. So colleges and universities across the country host celebrations or events to celebrate the accomplishments of our first generation students, but also, as Charlie said, to create visibility so our students know who each other are. I think this past year was it was heartwarming and just incredibly amazing to see all of the students there wearing their t-shirts. We got t-shirts for faculty and staff as well, and I think one of the favorite things that has come out of that is that students have now been able to see faculty and staff that they knew from classes but had no idea that they were first gen as well, or first gen graduates. And so that's allowed them to create connections with different faculty and staff around campus. So we host this every year. This year we're doing it on a different day because homecoming happens to be on November 8th. So we're pushing it up a week, but it's still going to be the same thing. We're celebrating our first generation college students, bringing campus partners to them so that they can meet these different campus partners. We'll have lots of food and fun for them just to really celebrate and highlight their amazing accomplishments. Every year, to sort of go along with this, we work with our university marketing team to create a video to share the stories of our first gen students and the amazing things that they're doing, and the journeys that led them to Tulane and the journeys that have led them to where they are. And so we try to feature students that are at different points in their journey, so seniors, some juniors, some first year students, just to get a wide variety of their stories. It's incredibly heartwarming. It is on our website. I encourage you to see it, to go and watch it whenever you get a chance. But it's very heartwarming to just hear the student stories. So again, we bring campus partners out, as many campus partners as we can fit in our outdoor space. We do this outdoors in Pocket Park, which is a nice big event space on campus, and it does really allow for visibility because it's in a high traffic area, so students can stop by as they are going to class or going back to their residence halls. And we provide free food and lots of good swag from different offices. So it's a fun celebration. I highly encourage you to encourage your child to attend when they get here. And then I'll pass it on to Charlie.
All right, so first gen supporter signage was something that I kind of came up with when I went to a first gen success conference with NASPA, which is a great big organization in higher ed. And I think it's good to have the faculty and staff to come to our First Gen Fridays and whatnot, but sometimes student schedules don't match up, or they may have niche concerns or questions that mainly pertain to the major that maybe just not anyone can answer. So I tried to reach out across many different departments and schools and whatnot to see who was First Gen, or who knew about First Gen struggles and wanted to be able to help First Gen students. And we compiled a list of those staff and faculty, which you can actually find on our website. And to increase that visibility of those staff and faculty, and to make people aware that they have these resources and support in their own departments and whatnot, we created these signs. And so we have some blue signs and some yellow signs. It looks a little orange in the picture there, but I promise it's more yellow than it appears. And the two different colors are supposed to signify, the blue is are for the first generation college graduates, the folks that actually went through the same struggles and similar situations that y'all are going through, or your children are going through. And then those that have the yellow signs are not necessarily first generation college graduates, but they know of the struggles and they want to help support. So you can, I've asked these faculty and staff to hang these in front of their offices, either on their doors or right below their signs, just so that, if students are walking to and from class, or, they're just talking to friends and whatnot in the hallway, they see these signs and they know that if they have questions that they're kind of apprehensive about because they don't want to sound, silly, there are never any silly questions, but I'm trying to speak from the student's point of view, where they feel a little bit sensitive of the things that they want to ask and the things that they don't know about. And they feel like they can approach these folks because they know where they're coming from. And I'm hoping to increase the visibility of these folks by creating a smaller graphic that folks can add into their email signatures. So even when they're emailing with a professor, that can also be another a sign for the student that this professor or staff member is a first generation college student, and they can open up a little bit more about the challenges that they're facing and the things that they're struggling with. And I'll hand it back over to Tanya.
Okay, so I know I said the first generation celebration was my favorite, but I think the graduation celebration might be. This was the inaugural one. It's the first time we did it. I think in conversation, Charlie and I realized that we really need to celebrate when our students, our first gen students, get to the end of their Tulane journeys, and how incredible it is that they navigated such unknown territory and made it to the end of that journey, and they're going to walk away with a Tulane degree. And so we launched this kind of hoping that the students would come to it. It was the first time we had done it, and it was absolutely incredibly heartwarming. A lot of the students were so grateful to have a celebration that celebrated this part of who they were, and this accomplishment that they'd made for themselves, but also for their families, and the journeys that they've been on, and how this is just going to completely change their trajectories for their lives. And so we hosted a celebration. We had about, I think, maybe about 30-ish students attend, which was great. And we got them stoles for the first time. And so they were able to wear these on graduation day and be so proud that people knew that they were first gen and that they had reached this milestone. So it was a host of a mix of a dinner, but also just a ceremony just to really highlight and celebrate this accomplishment for them. Lots of students came up to us at the end. I think I may or may not have gotten teary-eyed just watching them and being so proud. A lot of them I'd known for a while, so it was very amazing for me to be able to see that they made it to the finish line. And so we're hoping to continue to do this every year, and hope that it gets bigger and better as our first generation population grows, and that we're able to really highlight their accomplishments. I think we've been very intentional with how we've adjusted the programming to have it be a mix of celebration for the students, but also making sure that they're getting the support that they need.
All right. So although it seems, I'd like to think that we have accomplished a lot thus far, there are still many, many more things that we're hoping to do for first generation college students. And some of the things that we're looking at is something that a lot of folks have been requesting, is a mentor program. one of the things that's just holding us back right now is funding. We want to be able to help support those that are involved in the program that, help the first generation college students along in their pathways and whatnot. And we're working very diligently to get that funding so we can get this off the ground. So we're hoping to have this sooner rather than later. And fortunately, we have models from other institutions and from other programs across campus that we'll be able to base this off of and take things from in order to, really kick this off quickly and effectively. And something else that we're really hoping to do that we kind of have at least a foot in the door with is an LLC, a living and learning community for first generation college students, where they would either have a floor or eventually, if our population keeps growing, maybe a building. Our buildings our housing buildings are fairly large. So it might be a while before we have an entire building, but even just having a floor would be something great, where it's just completely filled with first generation college students, so that they can meet each other and really feel comfortable asking each other questions when they're just passing in the hall. And I'm also hoping to be able to have programming and events in those spaces, just to not only build those bonds between the folks on the same floor, but also to have further resource sharing and whatnot. And one thing that is a future plan, but is actually happening this coming semester, is our first generation college student organization, First to College Crew. And this is going to be completely made up of first generation college students. And my aim with the student organization is to basically have them be a major voice in the programming and event planning, because nobody knows what the students need better than the students themselves. So I'm going to lean on them a lot to come up with the ideas and their hopes and dreams for all these events, and then help make their hopes and dreams as much of a reality as possible. Knowing that we shoot for the stars to hit the moon, right? And I really want to try my best to make everything that they want these programs and events to be, make as much of it as possible. Sorry, I'm apparently at a loss for words today. It's been a slightly long day and we've been standing out in the sun for a bit. But I'm really excited for this. We already have an e-board of incredible first generation college students that are very vocal and very courageous and outgoing. So I think this is going to kick off wonderfully and really improve the first generation college student experience here at Tulane. I forget if there was one other thing that we wanted to mention during this slide. Dr. Tanya Mandashona, do you happen to remember?
I think we wanted to mention the orientation that we'll be launching this fall. So your students should have received information about that orientation track. So this is new. It's another new initiative that we're launching this year. We recognize that first gen students might have some different questions that they want to ask that their peers might not need to ask. We also wanted to get a head start on building community with our first generation students. So we've got 2 days of programming that'll happen during that orientation week for students. It's a nice mix of, again, connecting them with campus resources, but also allowing space and time for them to meet faculty and staff that are first gen supporters, and then also meeting each other and starting to form those bonds, or at the very least by the end of that week or when the semester starts, they can walk around campus and recognize a face that they saw during this orientation. So we're really excited about that. Your students should have received information about that, if I'm not mistaken, from the Office of First Year Experience.
All right. So we've been talking about the website and we've been talking about a whole bunch of different things, but how can you stay up to date? And although I think nowadays everyone can assume that a lot of folks are technologically literate and know how to navigate things. Things are still fairly complicated, and the Tulane website, as amazing as it is, can still be very confusing to navigate. So I've created a bit of a guide to help get you through the steps in order to find the first generation college student information on our website. But first, I do have a QR code for our Instagram. It should be up to date with all of our events, including our first generation college student programming and events. I hope so, as I'm the one that runs it. So if it doesn't stay up to date, you know who to blame. But I do try my best. And if you have any questions or concerns about any of the deadlines, about the funding opportunities that I mentioned earlier, those deadlines and more information can also be found in those posts on Instagram. And you can also message us on Instagram if that is a preferred method of communication. I'm frequently on our Instagram page. So if you message me there, I'll probably have a very quick response to you. And I'll leave this up for a couple more seconds, just to allow you folks a chance to capture that QR code. If you take a picture of it, you can save it for later, and you should still be able to access the QR code. And if you need me to go back, you can just let me know as well later. And then you can also visit our website in order to find the first gen page. Our URL is academic-equity.tulane.edu. And I can, of course, share this again later if anybody needs to write that down. But I've spoken with our marketing and communications director before, and I believe 80% of users on Tulane's website access the website via their phones. So I thought having a guide of how to find the first gen page via your phone would be a good way to help you folks really know how to get to the page. So this is the homepage. This is the first thing that you see when you access our URL. And then you're going to click on these 3 lines up here to access the menu. And you'll see this is what will pop up as soon as you click that. Everything up here is going to be for general Tulane. It won't be just for the CAE. So if you're not looking for just general Tulane information, please ignore this and then click on university info right here. And then once you do that, it will populate this menu here. And then all of this will be for us. But if you want to navigate to the first gen page, you'll click on our students here, and it'll populate this drop-down menu. And then as you can see here, the first generation college students page link will be right there. And then this is what you'll see. And when you scroll through the page, at the very top, that was that YouTube video, the professional video that was made for us with our first generation college students. That is our definition for first generation college students. And it'll, as things get developed and put into effect, we'll post these things on our website. And as you can see, there's a first gen contact list. We also have a growing glossary of terms in our resources there. And I'm looking to add things for the business school, specifically for the medical school, for the law school. So that'll be forever growing. And if you ever find terms or things that you need definitions for, you can also email that to me so I can add that to the glossary page as well. But I think that's everything that we have planned. Are there any questions that you all have for us?
So now is the time where you can type your questions into the Q&A box, and I'll pose those to our different panelists and let them answer questions. One thing that I thought of while you all were presenting that might need a little more clarification is the bundle. So if you could explain a little bit more. I think Tanya, you were the one talking about that, I believe, or maybe it was Charlie, but just explain a little bit more about what that bundle refers to, and then this the support that you all have for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. It is a little confusing. I think it's a unique to Tulane, the way that we do our books here. So a couple of years ago, the bookstore shifted to having a flat rate for your books and course materials. And so instead of students buying books individually from the bookstore, they now get all of their books for all of their classes in quote unquote a bundle. And so the bookstore packages them all up. I think the students have to go in and say that they want that. They have to opt into that or opt out, I'm sorry. And then the bookstore will go according to whatever their class schedule is. And so they'll get all of their books in a nice, I think it literally comes in a box for the students, and they can pick it up from the bookstore with everything that they need in terms of books and and course materials. Like Charlie mentioned earlier, I believe there's some art classes where they don't provide that, and so students would have to get that on their own. But it is now $375, a flat rate, and it just automatically goes onto their student account. And so we are fortunate we partnered with the bookstore and campus services, and we're able to provide some funding for students. So the application is open right now. They should have received all of that via email. But it's a great thing that we're able to provide this support, but I always love telling students and people this caveat that we only have 50 scholarships. And so we're limited in how many students we can support, and it is on a semester basis. So if your student gets the funding this semester, they might not get it next semester because we do it on a need-based application. And so I highly encourage, again, like I think Charlie said this earlier, but apply. The worst that we can say is no, but at least the students have given themselves a chance to get $375 to cover their book bundle.
And I think that if I remember correctly from my colleagues in campus services, because nowadays there are a lot of course materials that are not printed books, then they call them, they're more likely to use the term course materials, and then they branded it as a bundle because it would, instead of just calling it your books, because the benefit of some of these things is that they can be less expensive if they're electronic resources, that didn't exist when I went to college. So one of the benefits is that they can get this more flat rate because some of their materials would be much more expensive if they bought them sort of individually and had them all as printed materials. So by using that combination, it can be less expensive, but it's also really helpful for when students travel, they go home for a weekend or a break during the semester. They don't have to pack so much to go with them, or like when we've had an evacuation because of a storm or something, it's a lot easier for them to be able to access their course materials and things because they can do all of that online. So or a good bit of it. So that's another reason why it's got that terminology. So the link to apply for that is on the CAE website? Or
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is on our website, and it was also emailed to the students as well. I think if they search in their email for NTC undergrad bundle, that should pop up. I believe Campus Services sent that email a couple of times, but it does also live on our website, and I can drop that link in the chat so that it's easy.
It won't show in the chat to the participants, so
Oh,
I'll
that's
put
right.
it in the follow-up email.
Okay.
Also, I hope that all of you who've joined us tonight have been receiving and reading the parent newsletter. So that Tulane parent newsletter is something that I coordinate, and there's actually a link to the application in one of the last newsletters. But in the follow-up email that I'll send everybody who registered, we'll send that to you today or tomorrow. I'll include that link too, so that it's really easy to find. So we have another really great question. Would my daughter be considered first generation since her father and I went to school outside the US and we have no experience of what schooling in the US is like? So we're at a loss and we can only share what happens in our home country in Africa. So how would you respond to that question in terms of how that fits into our first gen model?
Yeah. So I think the short answer is yes. We would absolutely consider your student first generation, because they're, to your point, having gone through college in a different country is very different in the US. The US education system is very unique. I'm actually Zimbabwean, and when I came to college, my parents had no idea what I was talking about half the time when I told them about different things. So it was very challenging for myself. And so I think the short answer is yes, our office does consider students whose families are from a different country or went to college in a different country first gen. We are currently working on expanding the Tulane definition of it. Right now, the Tulane definition doesn't include that. And so we actually fortunately have a task force of people from around campus, and we're actively working to figure out how can we expand Tulane's definition of first gen to include students like yours who, you know, whose families didn't go to college here, or students from different kinds of families. We know that families look different, and so we want to make sure that we are supporting as many students who are going through that experience as possible. So short answer is yes, but I think in terms of some financial aid and things like that, that definition is a little bit narrow. So we would just have to navigate that with your student.
And Tanya, I think that brings up a really good question, just in terms of, so Charlie shared some of the things like social media and the website, and you all reach out to students, but if there are other students who somehow just haven't been captured in the outreach from your office or from Tulane, what are the best ways for them to get kind of connected to you all and stay in the loop about what you all are offering?
Charlie, you want to take this one?
Sure. So there are several different ways that everybody can stay up to date. I don't know why I did not add this to the presentation, but we do actually have a GroupMe. A GroupMe is an app that a lot of college students use nowadays. Some classes use it. Some other, you know, college-related organizations use it. And it's basically just another messaging app that connects students from the same organization. So that there's a greater Tulane University like GroupMe system, and that can get them connected to chat groups. Like I've seen law chat groups, I've seen medicine chat groups, I've seen architecture chat groups that students can get access to. But most importantly for this presentation and for this webinar, we have a first gen chat group, and anything and everything that goes on with first gen programming and events will definitely be posted in there. And a lot of the time too, I will ask students like what their opinions are on certain things, or like if we get the opportunity to go to a Pelicans game or like a Saints game, hopefully one day, to see if like folks would be interested in doing that. So those are things that go on in the GroupMe. But I think the best and easiest way to really stay up to date with our first gen programming events is really to pay attention to our Instagram, as we post most everything on there. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I will send the GroupMe information over to Penny to add that to the email and everything. But if you have any questions or concerns about that, you can also put that into the Q&A thing. Something I just wanted to add on to the previous talking point of the first gen definition. Something else that like this is another thing that would have to definitely be considered and addressed when it comes to financial aid. But there are a lot of folks that actually found out that we're first gen, that we consider first gen, is if the parents are if you folks are separated, and you're the main parent or guardian of the student going to Tulane, and you didn't get a 4-year degree from a U.S. Degree granting institution, we still consider your child, your student, a first generation college student, just because you and your child do not have access to that information that would be beneficial and help you in your collegiate journey. So that is also something to keep in mind.
I was just going to add, I think if your student for some reason hasn't received any information from us or doesn't see anything, they're welcome to just stop by an event, a first gen event, and let us know that they didn't get any emails, and we can add them on the back end. They can also email our office. Our email is pretty simple, cae@tulane.edu, to let us know that they identify as first gen but haven't been on any communication. Or they can just stop by the office and talk to any one of us, and we'll make sure that they get added to communication.
And my impression is also that you all are pretty visible on WaveSync, which is another tool that the students have. It's an online resource that is for all the different student organizations and departments at Tulane. And so a student kind of creates this, they get access to it, and it's like a calendar of events. And then it's also sort of a directory of organizations and departments on campus. And so they can look up everything from, an academic department to a student-run organization and see how to get connected and, get connected to that organization through the tool called WaveSync. And they can scroll through it like a calendar, and they can even sort the calendars if they only wanted to find all of the first generation programming. They could sort it that way, and then that's what shows up on the calendar, or they can look at it day by day or month to month. So that's another good way for people to find what's going on. So there's multiple ways for your students to find these wonderful people and their great programs. So I think that's a good thing that you can do as a parent, is just to kind of check in with them and ask, as you connect with them over the semester, what kinds of things you've been doing. I saw this great webinar about the good things that, the Center for Academic Equity does. Have you been to any first gen activities? I think it's always a good thing to just kind of check in and ask. So the more you know, the more you can support and encourage, hopefully not coming across in some way that they feel like you're nagging. We think that if we give you enough information so that you can kind of come from a position of understanding what's going on, so that they're little gentle nudges, because these people here who are talking to you are going to send out lots of information. There's going to be flyers, there's going to be things online. They've got students who are going to tell other students. That word of mouth is the way most students really find out about things. But sometimes a little special nudge from your parent or guardian can be, just that little extra encouragement. So I certainly operate everything I do that way, in trying to inform parents about things so that you can be one more person in their network of support to encourage them to make the most of their Tulane experience. So I also just want to put in a little plug again for the parent newsletter. If you're a family member who is here on the webinar and you haven't been receiving those e-newsletters, they come to your email, then please call me at 504-247-1898 or email me at families@tulane.edu, and we'll make sure that we get you added to that, because I send those frequently in the summer, in this very first summer when your students in the transition from high school to college, because all families need this information to help them get acclimated to the Tulane way to do things and all the different procedures and policies and the opportunities and resources. So they're a little bit less frequent once the academic year starts, but like once a month from September to May, there'll be a newsletter that'll give you some highlights, keep you abreast of things coming up, so that, again, you can encourage your students. Or I especially want to include things in those newsletters that if it seems like there's a procedure or a policy coming up, or some process that the students are going to be doing that warrants a family conversation about something, like especially things that might cost money for the next year or be some major decision-making times, then I want parents to know about those things before they happen, so that you'll be ready if your student wants to consult with you about that, or you can reach out to your student to engage with them about, the dynamics you want to consider, in making in your student making a decision for those things. So here's another question, and the person's already said this might be more of a financial aid question, but this week the fall semester statements have come out. And we've noticed that the student's Pell Grant, TOPS, and FAFSA loan is not reflected and doesn't reflect in the balance. So my understanding from working with the folks from accounts receivable. So accounts receivable is the name of the billing office at Tulane. It has different names at different universities, but that's what we call it here. Accounts receivable is that sometimes they do prepare those statements and bills before all those things have processed and hit the statement and, balance out. So if your student has already gotten their financial aid award, or they need to check in with their financial aid counselor just to confirm what is due to them, then they might need to do that. And the bill is not due until August 15th. So you've got some more time for some of that to kind of settle out and maybe for some of that stuff to get applied to see what the actual true balance of what your family owes would be. So, so you may want to just keep checking that statement or have your student do that so you can see if those things get added. But what they have told people in the past is if you've already you've gotten confirmation of certain amount that is coming to you, then you can deduct that from what you pay, but you might want to also email them and say, here's what we're expecting. And so just kind of, I think the best thing you can do is just over communicate. And so I'll include the email address for accounts receivable in the follow-up email that I send you as well. And that's probably also on the statement, but I'll make sure that you do that. This next question about when does the student apply for a FAFSA loan? So FAFSA is really the application that's used to determine what the person's need would be and what they qualify for. So I don't know, Tanya, do you have any more answer for that, or should we refer
I
this
think
person to their counselor?
I think so. I know that the students should have already submitted all of that. I think that generally opens up in about March, April every year. That's when the FAFSA generally will come out. And so the students just have to fill that out, and that's what financial aid uses. I would definitely have the student reach out to their financial aid counselor to make sure that they've got that on file. You do have to do that every single year.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to know that sometimes students think they only have to do it once when they come in, but you have to submit it every single year. I also highly recommend doing the CSS profile as well, because that allows Tulane to look at institutional need as well.
Could you repeat what that's called? You said
The
that.
the CSS profile. Yeah. So every year I do both of those.
And I believe that in the next family newsletter on July 15th, we'll have an article from the Office of Financial Aid that also might answer some of these questions. But another thing just to know about how some of that support works at Tulane is that the financial aid counselors, the staff members who work with the students in processing all of those requests and everything, they're divided up, that their group of students that they work with is divided up according to the alphabet. So on the financial aid website, it'll tell you if your last name is from A to F, this is the counselor that's, works with those students. And so your student can find that that information on their website, like on the it has like a breakdown of their financial aid counselor staff. And so that's the person they work with. And so sometimes if financial aid counselors, if we have new people or they rebalance the number of people in each of those sections, their counselor might change, but they can always find who their dedicated person is in that list. So so one person was asking, how can we be in the group chat? But that group chat is for the students. So I think the best way for parents to stay abreast of what this wonderful office is doing is probably through Instagram, because that's more of a public facing thing. And you could follow the Center for Academic Engagement and first generation programming specifically on Instagram. But the group chat would really be more for student to student and student to Charlie communication. So somebody asked to repeat the phone number for my office. So that is 504-247-1898. And so if you need to call, you can always leave a voicemail if it's after hours or if I'm on the phone or something, but you can call, talk to me if you've got questions or you need referrals to these different offices. I'm happy to do that. That is what I am here for all parents. But especially if you haven't been getting the newsletters, then please call or email. And again, the email is really easy to remember. You don't have to remember me, you remember who you are. So it's families plural, families@tulane.edu. So we're getting towards the end of our time, so we'll kind of make a last call for any lingering questions. So families, if you have another question, please submit that. And then know that maybe by tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday, we'll have that follow-up email sent to all of you where we'll reiterate some of these different specific answers to questions, some of the resources and links, and then you'll also see the slides that you're able to see tonight. And yes,
Oh, I just wanted to add. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. All right. So on the first generation college student page, one of the links is actually the financial aid counselors.
great.
But you can go to that, and then as Penny was talking about earlier, everybody's financial aid counselor is by last name. So you just click on one of the last name ranges, and then it'll show you the contact information for that person.
Perfect.
And then I also wanted to show really quickly. Sorry. Oh, I'm in the editor view, but you go to menu, and then you go to resources, and then when you click on resources, there should be a drop-down menu again, and then the NTC Undergrad Bundle Scholarship link is right there, and it'll take you to a page that shows the deadlines, and then also has the application link right there as well.
Right.
So that's a little bit easier for you. And I also just wanted to show they do have a page on for the CSS profile, and a link to the form itself. And again, the CSS profile is for institutional aid from Tulane. So this is separate from FAFSA. So if you haven't filled that out already, please do. And there is a code that you have to input once you go to set up your profile and whatnot on the CSS website. So be sure to write this down or jot this down or copy it before you go to that link. I just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of all of that.
Great. Thank you. So I'll just ask those of you who are here with us, just put in a little note in the Q&A. If you have participated in any of the other family webinars, just put yes. Or if you just haven't, you weren't sure they were going to be helpful, or you didn't have time or whatever, you can put no. And if you didn't know about them, you can just put a question mark. I would just be interested to know how many of you maybe have availed yourself of those resources, because we do webinars like this on a host of different topics, because we find that even if there are family members who did attend college, they probably did it at least 18, 20 or more years ago, and things could have been very, very different if you think of how much technology has changed, especially then things are different. Things are different from school to school, depending on whether it's a state school or a private school or large or small or medium size. So those are always really helpful for all kinds of parents on a lot of different topics. So, so I'm glad to see that some of you have participated in some of those other ones, and I hope that you found them helpful. We are always really open to feedback about the webinars. So we welcome you to type in a little note of whether or not you found this helpful before we close, or if you want to send an email to families@tulane.edu, you can give feedback about what you liked, what you didn't, what you would find more helpful, or if there was something that you were expecting this evening that you didn't hear about. Then we really want to know that, because that feedback from parents helps us continually improve what we're offering to parents and families. And this is the first time that our group here, this group of colleagues, has presented a webinar for families of first-gen students. So we're especially eager to hear your feedback. And we'd like to know, as the year goes on, if you feel like there would be a good reason to have another one of these mid-year, because new things have come up or you're anticipating other things, that you just want some more attention for the families of first-generation students. This is one of the best ways for us to do this, because since our Tulane students are spread all over the country, it's a lot easier for us to connect with you this way. And then always know that even if you can't join us at the live webinar time, we always record them and make them available on the family programs website. So, and I will give you a little pro tip for you to remember. So not everybody knows this, but if you even just register for the webinar, even if you're not sure that date works for you to join us that evening, register anyway, because I'll automatically send everybody who registers the slides and the link to the recording before it even gets posted on the website or mentioned in the following newsletter. That might be 3 weeks later. So you'll get the information pretty quickly, within a couple of days, even if you can't join us that night. always great if you can be here live with us because you have the chance to have your questions answered during this time together. But you're always welcome to send follow-up questions too. So please always remember that even if you don't remember any other email address at Tulane, if you remember families@tulane.edu and say, hey, I need some help. I can't remember the name of that office or who I'm supposed to send this to, or, my student's having an issue with such and such. Can you give me the website so I can be learning about this alongside them to help give them some support and advice? Then that's what I'm here for. So I'm kind of your general navigator for your students' time at Tulane. So we're really grateful that you joined us tonight, and we're so excited that your student's going to be joining us. And we hope this has been helpful. And I just want to thank Tanya and Charlie and Brittany, who's so brand new. We're so happy that you joined this group tonight on your first day in this new job. So do my colleagues have any last words they want to say before we close?
I just wanted to say again, congratulations to you and your child. And again, like Penny said, if any questions come up, please feel free to reach out. Our contact information will be in the follow-up email that Penny will send. So if at any point while your child is here, any questions come up, please let us know. That helps us, support you, but also helps us adjust websites and think about different ways that we can support families as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us with any questions that you might have or any thoughts that you might have about what might be helpful for you as you navigate this college experience with your child.
Thanks again, everybody. Have a great evening. Good night.